Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm on the Marin Headlands today, and I'm at the Nike Missile Defense System site here, SF-88, and I want to go see what we can discover. A lot of veterans are here today. It's a special day. I did film this before and had a lot of fun. I thought I'd come back because the veterans are here. So let's go see what we can discover today at the Nike missile site here. And this is one of the best restored versions of the over 200 sites there are in the country.
We're very fortunate today because of all these different sites are manned by volunteers that actually worked here or at a similar site. So they're full of detailed information and interesting stories. This used to be a United States Army anti-aircraft guided missile site. It operated during the Cold War from about 1954 until it shut down in 1974. And the purpose of these anti-aircraft missiles was to shoot down any Soviet bombers that came by in case of Third World War developed. The big takeaway from this is that one of those missiles, the Nike Hercules missile, is meant to shoot down a whole formation of Soviet bombers, a whole bunch of them, and was designed to do that by detonating an atomic bomb above and in front of the bombers, melting them to the ground. This missile only had a range of 100 miles, which means that an atomic bomb could have gone off above one of our cities like Sacramento. Right? The detonation was designed to occur at about 55,000 feet, so high enough to avoid blast, radiation, or fallout damage to the people underneath, which is obviously important. We don't want to kill the people we're trying to save. Right? So the people underneath that bomb would experience a blinding flash of light and a horrible noise, and then an electromagnetic pulse that would disable the electronics. No missile was ever fired from here for real because that would have been World War III, and we know that didn't happen. They weren't fired from here for practice either because of both missiles. Both of the missiles that were here, the Nike Ajax and the Nike Hercules, the one with the atomic bomb, had a solid fuel first stage, and that solid fuel first stage explodes off the ground, creating a tremendous shock wave, and we can't have that happening in the developed area. Plus, the first stage only burns for 3 or 4 seconds and then falls away, and we can't have that happening.
I'm going to walk around these other areas because there's less people right now. That one of those areas is packed. I'm thinking, oh, I can go up here. Check this out first.
Did it have air conditioning, or was it shut up, or
No.
no?
No. The military, you suffer.
Suffer in heat.
There is a big blower system
There's your AC right there.
to cool the computer equipment, but nothing to cool the individuals.
So this is the radar tracking hut.
No, this is battery control.
Battery.
This is the battery control van, yes.
What does that mean?
Battery, like that's what
It means this is where the battery control officer sat. He pushed the fire button. So when he had data from the tracking radars as to where the target was and where the missile was, the computer, which is behind you, starts here, goes all the way to the door. It's 3,000 vacuum tubes.
Is it open?
The computer would figure an intercept point.
Here, can I get a picture for John?
Before cell phones.
Your cell phone.
Probably 1,000 times stronger than this, right?
40,000 times as
40,000 times.
So after missile launch, everybody was a spectator. Nobody touched anything, and we would watch the engagement on these plotting boards.
Yeah.
This is horizontal, looking down on the engagement. One pen was the target, the other pen was the missile.
So it's like a mechanical pin that moves to designate.
And I say pens because they had green ink in them, and there's butcher paper in there, so it would record the engagement.
Oh, wow.
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 This is the same thing. It's vertical, looking at it from sideways. So you would watch the two pens come together, And when the missile was just above and in front of the target, the computer would send the burst command. Now, in the Nike Hercules missile, we had about 1,000 pounds of TNT, or we could have a small yield nuclear warhead. And small being a little bigger than we dropped on Hiroshima.
Wow.
Which is big, but it's small for a defensive weapon. After all, we're only shooting at one airplane, or maybe two or three. The burst diameter of the nuclear warhead was 2 kilometers, about 1.8 miles. And anything within that area would most probably be destroyed.
Wow.
Wow.
You mean underneath as well?
It's a sphere.
It's a sphere when it goes off. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. But since the fireball didn't touch the ground, all this was going on at 35,000
Yeah,
feet.
up high.
There was no surface radiation for the target area.
Oh, okay.
Just taking out planes, right?
Yes, we would definitely cause an EMP.
Well, does that knock out all the electronics in the whole city?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Probably on
Lucky
all
you
aspects.
never had to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
You never
I may
had
not be
to.
here today.
we were
if I did.
successful because we were a deterrent weapon.
Oh,
And since we never had to fire, then we had succeeded in our mission.
that's fantastic. Well done. Thank you for your service on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, really happy.
But did you work at this particular one?
No, no, I worked in Buffalo, Boston, Chicago, LA, and Colorado Springs.
Okay. There's like 300 of them, is that right?
241 max.
Oh, okay. Can you tell me what this is about?
Absolutely. When we first started out, one thing I mentioned in the other van was our command post would draw an electronic circle around the target on the scope they wanted us to fire on.
Oh, okay.
Before that technology came into effect, all of our early warning plotting was done on this board. And we were tied into the long range radar systems, the DEW line, the Mid Canada line, Pine Tree line, long range Air Force radars. So we would wait while this target was tracked all the way down from where it first came into view until it came within range of our radars at Mount Tam.
Okay.
And then there would be a guy here with a grease pencil on the phone, and they would give him coordinates, and he would plot the target track manually.
Oh my God.
And when the target came within range of our acquisition radar, he would take his grease pencil and he'd go over here and he'd mark an X on the guy's screen. Tell him that's where you want to look at it, Joe.
How accurate was that?
They did pretty well.
Really?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm surprised.
But when we got the electronic version, we did away with this guy's job.
Right.
Somebody was saying that if a nuclear warhead detonated in San Francisco Bay, that the radiation would cover the whole country. Is that right?
Well, it depends on the winds. But our mission was to keep that from happening.
Yeah.
And to destroy the target at 35,000 feet, so that you might get some blast and maybe a few bomber parts, but you wouldn't get radiation in the Bay Area.
This looks like the Star Trek symbol.
So when did they raise it?
That's a dead zone.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't intercept a missile in that zone.
Got it. So did the Russians know? They knew about this.
They did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, there are some pictures in the Library of Congress,
Mm-hmm.
which no American governmental organization will acknowledge they took, and we think they came from the Russians.
Oh,
Pictures of Nike missile sites.
right. That
So
makes
we think
sense.
they knew just enough about the system to be a little wary.
Right.
Search radar antenna went around in 360 degrees.
Okay.
This is one of the tracking antennas. They were controlled in this van, and they shone a pencil beam on either the missile or the target.
Oh, wow. And was this your specialty?
No, I was a battery officer. I did everything.
Oh, okay.
I spent 2 winters in Buffalo in the launching area.
Oh, that sounds cold.
It was.
Opposite of this.
Yes. Yes. I applied for San Francisco and they sent me to Buffalo. So that's the missile tracking radar. This is the target tracking radar. Same concept.
Okay.
This one had 3 operators: elevation, azimuth or direction, and range, in and out.
Okay.
And this is a duplicate of the search radar screen in the other van. So they could see what he was looking at.
Right.
They could see the electronic circle that the Mount Tam had put on his screen. So they would follow him until it came within their range.
Got it.
Then he would say, designate. I am designating to you this target to lock onto and fire on. They would say, confirm, got it. And when they were locked on, they would say, track. And to lock on, they used these hand wheels, which electronically steered the antenna beam until they got a strong signal.
That was outside the beam out there, or no? Something different. Does this control those out there, or no?
Yes, it
Oh, it
controls
does. Okay.
the beam on one of the
Okay.
tracking antennas.
Yeah.
And when they got a strong signal in their oscilloscope, which looked like that,
Yeah.
they would turn these switches to automatic.
Okay.
And the system would automatically follow the target from that point on. They didn't have to touch it.
Oh, wow.
So once they were locked on, the missile tracking radar would focus on a missile in the launching area. They'd send their data to the computer. That's where we picked it up next door. Intercept point, fire, spectators, watch, burst.
If you were working a shift, this is 24/7, right? Someone's in here?
Not really.
No?
Under normal circumstances, if anything could be defined as normal, these guys worked about 7:30 to 4:30 during the day.
Okay.
Now, at any one time, 25% of the sites in the Bay Area were on alert status.
Okay.
And in that case, they would have a standby crew that would be there all night. Now, for a 30-minute battery, you've got 30 minutes to get ready to fire. They could be in the barracks or in the ready room. Come out to the system, fire it up, and get ready to fire. Sometimes we were 15 minutes. In that case, there'd be guys in the chairs, the equipment would be energized, and they would be looking for targets.
And these are all bombers they're looking for, right? Planes?
Yes.
Okay. They weren't, at this point, Russia didn't have missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? They weren't.
It was just on the dawn of that era.
Okay.
In fact, when the ICBMs came in, they phased this system out because
Because they could reach over here, right? Is that,
Yeah, it
the
was-
distance.
we fire back, we don't try to shoot them down.
Right. And this is an example of what a Russian bomber would have been?
Yeah, the Russian Bear bomber was our primary target. Still in service today, just like our B-52.
Yeah. That's a big bomber.
Yes, could carry a pretty good size.
Doesn't look like it flew very fast, so it wouldn't have been too hard to get rid of, I imagine.
Well, it's turboprop, so it was probably going about 550 miles an hour.
Okay, went pretty fast.
The missile was going Mach 3.6,
Yeah,
so
a little faster.
you could run but you couldn't hide.
Did they ever do testing on it, like with dummy aircraft or anything?
Well, the testing was done before the system was put into operation.
Okay.
We did training firings once a year. Again, more to test the people than the missile. But we would go down to New Mexico and we would draw 3 missiles and we would fire them against drone targets.
Okay. That's good to hear, that it actually was tested.
Testing the crews,
Yeah.
I say, more than the missile.
Yeah.
And we have an example of one of the drones in the Warhead building across the street.
Oh, okay. I'll definitely go check
Over
that out.
there.
Well, thank you. for all your knowledge and your stories. Do you have any personal stories that you want to share?
Well, just one. I was on duty one night in Buffalo, and I got a call from the command post, and he said, you better bring your missiles up. We've got a flock of unknowns coming in. We can't identify them.
Right.
So we went out, for the first time, we hooked up the arming devices and we connected the missiles to the launcher, which we didn't do during our training.
Right.
And we sat and waited.
Oof.
And all the targets disappeared. And it turned out they were a flock of Canadian geese. They landed for dinner and we went back to bed.
Okay. I thought you were going to say UFOs for a minute.
No.
Well, thank you again for your stories in time.
Sure.
Anyhow, so this one here was, the conventional board was the equivalent of 625 pounds of TNT wrapped in 22,000 little metal fragments. So it was pretty gnarly.
Why the metal fragments? What was that
It was
about?
make a big cloud.
Because it makes a cloud of those fragments that takes out those planes. And you'd always aim the thing forward and above the target.
Oh,
Because if you've seen the black and white pictures of the bombers going in over Europe in World War II,
yeah.
is that there'd be flak going off and big old flak in front of one of these planes, but way away from him. And he keeps on going, and all of a sudden he just rolls.
Because it's slowing down.
And that's because that massive amount of outgassing, that big ball of outgassing went over the top of that wing because they detonated above.
Oh,
And that inverted the flight characteristics.
oh wow.
The problem is if the dive becomes too steep too quickly, those poor, those newer generation turboprops from the B-17 wouldn't have enough oomph to pull out of it. And that was a pretty bad thing back
Oh
then.
wow.
So that was the whole point of making sure you're forward and above the target is, like say you shoot the nuclear weapon at them. You've got 32 Golov 95s coming into these big bear bombers. This thing goes up, comes over and detonates. Whatever doesn't get consumed by the fireball gets us overpressure and knocks them out of the air.
Oh wow.
Not all of them are going to crash. Some of them will recover, but when they recover, they're down here 5,000 to 10,000 feet. There's no way they're going to make it to this point here at 39,000 feet to drop their bombs here to hit the target. So the only thing those pilots can do is back off and head home so that somebody else can use the plane, because that close proximity to a nuclear bomb of 20 to 30, 40 kilotons, something around there, they're going to expire within a couple weeks. So they're probably not going to be
Oh,
flying
the
again.
people that were in the plane from the radioactive fallout.
Yeah, but the country wants their plane back and the weapon on board back
Oh,
because
wow.
they cost too much. The
Ah,
bombs did.
but it never ever happened. That's amazing.
No.
Never had to use them.
And the thing is the nuclear weapon for this thing, there were 3 of them.
Yeah.
Now, I can't tell you the actual yield or the model numbers, so we've gone to letting people know the McDonald's version. There's a small, a medium, actually there's 4 of them, a small, medium, a large, and an extra large. The small was a light tactical, mostly used in a surface-to-surface mode in Asia, where they were prepped in Asia and prepped in Europe, and some in the Med. But here in the States, they all had surface-to-air mode, and they used the medium. The medium was the equivalent blast of the Nagasaki blast,
Oh, jeez.
which even though Hiroshima looked like it took out more problems, more real estate, the Nagasaki bomb was much more powerful. It drifted off of its target point and detonated next to a hillshade, making it look like it wasn't as big of a bomb. But it was actually much bigger. So that was the medium. The large is twice that size, and the extra large, which actually this particular site actually had one, or at least one. That was 3 times the size.
Wow.
The extra large came about because when the missile itself was finished, the custom fitting special warhead for it wasn't. And so they made 255 Air Force bombs. They made a conversion cage for it to fit inside the skin. And that was the extra large. And there was only, I think it was 16 sites in North America got them, and this was one of them.
So where's all this nuclear warheads now?
Oh, we buried it out back,
Continues.
down in the valley there.
No, but I mean.
This is a
did they-
model.
did they-
Well, that's what the dog kennels are for.
Yeah, that we.
You know, we just throw them in there, the dogs are, you know.
He said just throw it
No,
out.
actually,
Then build a bomb.
all right,
Yeah, hey, I was a radar operator, so don't.
so actually, I was on the SALT II team in 1984 that removed these out of the inventory.
Oh,
Where
wow.
did they end up?
They
not-
actually.
That's top secret.
A lot of it is Treasure Island, and they just built buildings on top of it.
Are you kidding?
No.
Yes.
No, actually, I cannot tell you where.
Exactly.
It's a secret.
All I can tell you is all the related components to it
Arizona.
were destroyed.
But so they just had the warheads stockpiled somewhere?
Right, because the warheads can then be modified at a later time if they're deemed useful.
Oh,
Or, well, no, the thing is it's like, we've got one item, and I'm not gonna go in the model or the size or anything,
yeah.
that the Air Force has had for years, and they keep making it better and better and better.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, yeah, it should have been removed from the inventory long ago, but it's still, the core is still good. And then, you know, they'll add this characteristic, that characteristic, just make it to where, the whole point of the nuclear arsenal isn't who can get the biggest, it's who can get the most precise with the smallest amount.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like the
That makes
Russian
sense.
SS-18 that was targeted for this area. The Mod 4 and the Mod 6 were both one single 20 megaton warhead. The
Wow.
reason being is because the guidance was horrible. So they figured if they're gonna aim at the San Francisco Bay, it hits Davis. The bay is still so dirty that nobody can operate in it, right? So that was the whole point of the big one. Now, they've changed out that old rocket motor, they've gone to a 5th generation rocket motor. The RS-36 carries, which is the replacement for it, it carries the same warhead bus, so warhead shape, but it's got 8.8 kiloton reentry vehicles. So it can go up out of the atmosphere, arc over its target, the Earth rotates underneath, and then once its
Wow.
target package is in the way, these things can go to 8 different for that big of a warhead, you're looking at a military target.
Oh,
So they're really not looking to hit cities, they're looking to take out an entire base. And I mean a big base too, so yeah, you're probably gonna affect everybody else.
Wow.
wow.
But, so, I've got some information here.
This is a model, right? This is not an actual one.
This is an actual rocket,
Oh, okay.
but it has no explosives.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Sure
much, sir.
thing.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your service too.
Absolutely. Enjoy your part.
Thank you.
Yeah, this, by the way, we were actually lucky when we were going through all those Connex's parts and stuff.
Yeah.
This is actually the
Operational.
cutaway for the school.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So all your warrant officers and folks they trained on.
So
this.
what, is this a bomb or is this
This would have been
fuel?
Yeah, so Ajax was the first one to come out.
Okay,
Ajax only went out 25 miles,
okay.
and bombers don't fly like jet fighters in tight
Right,
groups.
right.
you're not going to kill more than one plane with one of these. So
Got it, yeah.
it was basically one-on-one.
Right.
So this thing here, the fuel was so hazardous that you'd bring the missile in here first. You'd put in the power supply
Yes.
and the 3 warheads, a 12-pounder in the nose, 167-pounder in the middle, and a 122-pounder in the rear.
Oh, wow.
So these would go pop, pop, pop.
Okay.
And you'd end up with these debris fields, and as the next warhead blew, it blew the field wider and wider and
Oh, I
wider.
see.
To where the plane's flying right into this.
That's supposed to take the wings out and all that, right?
These little fragments here,
Yeah.
they're gonna end up
Oh, wow.
going through turbines, through bodies, through radar, through every component of the aircraft.
Wow.
And if it doesn't do a kill shot because they fired it above,
Yeah.
it'll do a disabling shot and then knock it out of the air because of that overpressure that I talked about.
Yeah. Wow.
So it is a kill shot. But
And this is an Ajax. It's that long.
this is the Ajax, but the problem with Ajax was it's fuel.
Hmm.
Though the booster, which is
Okay, I was gonna say. Yeah.
the solid rocket, the fuel for Ajax, this was the problem. That was a blend of JP4, which is jet fuel,
Okay.
with red fuming nitric acid and dimethylhydrazine.
I don't even know.
So if you gave it a
Just-
dirty look in the wrong environmental conditions,
Yeah. Just the
flash
name
on.
of that sounds nasty.
so after they built the missile,
Yeah.
they then have to take it out back. In fact, there's a defueling rack right there. It's all messed up because of the weather, because of the rust,
Oh, the rack. I see.
but they'd actually bring it up on a trailer
Yeah.
and they'd fuel it. Then 6 months later, you had to take it and put it on the defueling rack because
It would eat away,
fuel
or
would eat through
Yeah.
the cells, and then they send it back to depot. They take apart the missile and put a new cell in, a new tank.
that's that like modern gasoline with carburetors. If you let it sit too long,
Now they-
that's probably 1,000 times more toxic. Wow.
The red fuming nitric acid and the dimethylhydrazine. Oh yes.
What is this little thing here?
This was one of the tanks. This
Oh, okay.
Is this the acid tank?
It's pretty thick too. This is half
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And it would still eat through that, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
And so they figured that take almost a year to eat through, so they figured that the shelf life would be 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
6 months, you empty it out, send it back to depot. They change one of these things out, but before you send it to depot, you crack open another one of those cans.
Oh, that's where the toxic
That's a
stuff.
Hercules in there, but the Ajax came in a similar container.
Oh, this is like their transportation
Yeah. So
pre-assembly type deal.
that's a complete missile in there.
Oh, okay.
Except for if you notice in the first building, the big piece didn't fit onto the little piece.
I haven't gone to that building yet, but I will.
Well,
It
that's
was
a start.
there was like 50 people in there. So.
All right, so the reason they didn't fit is because this piece was missing. This is the warhead.
Oh, okay.
It's shipped separately in this container.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
It's got suspension on it too. Is that?
Oh, this thing can take a beating in this container.
Yeah, I bet it can.
It's built like the Sikorsky helicopters. It's got
So
that,
it could. Yeah.
it's the unibody frame.
Yeah.
So it can take the shake and yaw. And I actually got to see the films of this container being tested.
Really?
Yeah,
They,
that was
how,
really
they drop it? Just drop it from?
The first one was getting T-boned by a train.
My God.
The next one was getting swept off of a flat car on a train while the train's in motion.
Yeah.
And then the last one was they drove it up the top of this concrete pedestal
Yeah.
on a forklift, and the forklift operator just, and it fell 3 stories to
Wow.
concrete pad.
Survived them all, huh? Kind of.
The warhead survived.
Yeah.
The container was wrecked.
But the point was the warhead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the other thing that's not here is when you see when you see the Hercules up on the rails,
Yeah.
it's got a set of boosters on it. The boosters are actually 4 of these Ajax boosters strapped together.
Oh, wow, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's
I
what,
figured, why
yeah,
not recycle,
it has
right?
that, I can visualize it now, yeah.
So, the booster set it's brought out here, they uncrate it, and then they put it on a trolley, which is out back here, and then they put the bottom wings on it. So there's the carriage right there.
Oh, okay,
So they put you put the top wings on,
yeah,
and see those trays down below?
yeah,
That's where your bottom wings are. And
Oh.
when it's hauled up, they put it onto the rails, install the bottom wings.
yeah.
Now that it's on the rail, and then they lower down the missile, and they hook the connections, and then just raise it up a little bit, goes thunk, like this, and it's
Wow.
connected.
Is this a engine over there, that aluminum thing, or chrome?
That is actually the if you go into the first building, the back end of the missile itself
Yeah,
is hollow. That's because that's installed here in this point also. If you notice the earthen berms around here,
yeah,
this is called the service area. So it goes assembly area first, then the service area,
yeah,
and anything that's explosive or caustic is done in this area, so that
Okay.
if there is an accident,
yeah,
hopefully never happened,
right,
nobody else gets
that
affected.
makes sense. This red thing is a drone, right?
That is a drone, yes. And I've got some depictions of when this site was operating.
Yeah,
These guys go down to Texas and shoot towards Z's.
oh, that's what you were
That
talking
guy right
about,
there. And then in the later years, such as when I was in the military,
Yeah,
these were the drones. In fact, the Italians
okay.
had a few of these down in Crete.
this is a little faster than the prop one, right?
Yes.
Look at this old truck here. That thing is, the ocean air has really worked its magic on this thing. That ain't going anywhere anytime soon. The amount of rust on it is amazing. Yeah, some wood holding the fender up here. Yeah, they had to put some wood here just to hold this fender in place before it falls off. It's kind of crazy how the guy was saying that you assemble all these things. They arrive in these tubes, and then you have different stages of assembly. People that were really good if there's erector sets when you're kids probably ended up being good assembling these missiles, you know? So this is the main event here, the launch site. And we're going to get some details from a veteran. Here's a security outpost. These guys don't mess around. And they had, you know, deadly German shepherds patrolling this whole property. They had a dog training facility over here. Let's see what this gentleman has to say. Hey, there's a nice Ford Falcon there.
I was stationed, not at this site, but a similar site in Los Angeles. And understand, we have about 240 of these sites in the U.S. Yeah, in 27 states and 44 cities. Alaska, Hawaii, and all our NATO allies have these. So, you know, Italy, Taiwan, and so forth. But this is the Hercules missile. It weighs 5 tons, over 5 tons, and it can have either a nuclear or a high explosive warhead. Now, I was 17 years old when I first started, so we didn't know what was what. We didn't know if it was a nuclear warhead or, because they had the need to know things, so they kind of kept us like mushrooms. They didn't tell us too much. And, but we trained for war all the time. We did. We trained for nuclear war. So when we number one thing to do is maintenance on these. And one of the jobs I would do is I would take this cover off, and I had a big air compressor on wheels, and then bring it up. It's just like filling a tire in your car. And then take this cover off. I would screw the hose on it and fill this missile to 2,200 psi, 2,200 pounds, because all the flaps, the wing flaps and stuff, are controlled by air, pneumatic control. So a daily thing was to fill the air on all of these, plus the launchers had an air tank too. So it was just one, the first thing in the morning, you did your maintenance work, and then it was training, but once a year, like Jerry was saying, we did actually have to do live fire. Well, we couldn't do live fire from any of the sites because we're too close to people. So what the Army would do was give you a 48-hour, 2-day notice and say, okay, LA-88, your crew needs to be in El Paso, Texas, in 48 hours to fire 3 missiles. And you're going to be graded on that firing. So it's like a final exam. And you want to get 100% on that final exam, because if you don't, there's going to be problems when you get back. So that's what we did once a year, and I got pictures. This is what the Hercules looks like. So there's 3,200 pounds of thrust. This missile has a 100-mile range, basically, 90 to 100 miles. But this is what it looks like. In 3 seconds, this piece, the booster, falls off. And then there's another motor that carries it.
That explodes? Where is the ammunition stored, or whatever that is, the bomb, right?
I'll show you a picture that's make it real clear. Right there.
Oh,
That green area is the warhead.
I see.
Yeah.
And that dislodges and then kind of falls, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of the sort of missile comes back, or is it
No.
just all disintegrates?
No, the missile's fired once. The booster falls off 3.5 seconds. There's another rocket motor in the middle that goes for 28 seconds.
Okay.
Now, after that 28 seconds, we're 5 miles. We're 5 to 7 miles up in the atmosphere. This missile can go as high as 18 miles in the atmosphere. But what it does, it comes up in front of the target and then comes down. And 110 milliseconds, or about 40 feet, before the missile actually comes down on the target aircraft, the computer gives it the burst command. Okay? And so this is actual Hercules that we fired, my unit. We also have the old Ajax missile. Here's the crew prepping the missile. Now you're going to see a Ford Mustang, silver Ford Mustang in the back. That Mustang is the range officer's car. He is on the other side of this missile with a clipboard, and he's grading all of us here on how well we do. So there's a checklist procedure, and he's checking us off that everything we do is correct. That's me.
Oh, nice.
And that's 1971, July of 1971.
You look just the same.
Yeah, that's when I had hair.
Maybe younger than.
And then that's me again, Dr. Strangelove.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's you?
yeah, that's me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
71, huh?
yeah, July of 71. So yeah, I was fortunate. I was actually on the snap crew for LA-88. And so we were in San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles. But these, in LA, we had 8 sites around the greater LA area. And here in the Bay Area, we had 7 sites. But they're protecting mainly the military bases. Military and industrial assets, you know, which is the
San Diego must have had it.
Hewlett Packards and all the
Yeah.
technology. But a lot of military bases too, Fort Ord, you know, Treasure Island, you know, Alameda Naval Air Station. There's a bunch of it. Now, I need a volunteer, and I see one. How would you like to be? How would you like to be a missile crewman and actually move the missile? What we're going to do, I need someone, I need some help. We're going to grab this. Watch your head, because this missile is going to move, okay? And I want to show you what a crewman actually did. So let's pull it towards us. Whoa. Okay.
Pretty strong.
This is a 10,500-pound missile. And now we're going to go the other way. Now we're going to push it.
Oh my goodness, yeah, you just want
Don't go home and have any nightmares now. First time I saw him here,
Now, you got to be careful when you do that, because if you push it too hard and the missile falls off, you know what you get? Mistletoe. That was bad.
It's a little early for that, isn't it? It's Christmas.
No nightmares. Okay.
Mistletoe.
Okay. Can I interrupt you a little bit? Should we bring the missile down?
No.
Okay. Where do you think I need to stop? About right. What you do, you keep your missiles down here. You don't really need them up on alert, okay? They're made of aluminum, magnesium, so it's kind of nice to keep them out of the weather, especially around here. That solar air is the best thing on it, okay? This is the Atlas missile. When these guys are stored down here, see this right here? They would be, there's a lock that you let be locked on so it could move. Because even when these were being launched, and if some of them were still down here, this place really shook. And it was shaped so hard that even though the guys would be hiding in a room back there, that the walls are 4 feet through concrete, because the noise goes to what they call 150 decibels.
Oh boy.
If that number gets big, when you get to 136, you're dead already. We go higher than that if you aren't protected. So in that room, you have to be protected against that noise. That noise is not just like a rumble or like a steam. It's just a thunder and lightning, if you will, all at the same time, making that much noise. It shakes the walls and it shakes the missiles that would be down here. So you've got to make sure you've got them locked down real good. And these missiles, they have to be able to withstand a whole bunch of pressure. If you were trying to stay in this missile and go right, you have to be able to withstand your weight changing up to over 27 times you're heavier than you are right now on takeoff. 27 what they call G's if you try to go along with one of these missiles when they take off. And that noise goes to that number over 136, so that you can't even have earphones and stuff on.
And that comes through these are all closed when they launch them, right?
These are closed, not really. This launcher will probably be sitting up there.
But the
And
noise is still coming through.
Coming through
Wow.
whatever gets through to here.
Yeah.
So that upon launch, 150 decibels at the instant in this area. You gotta be 1,000 yards away. So that's what these guys had to do. Get them up. There's 4 launchers up there that look just like this guy, 3 more. And you would get the 4 missiles up there. And when you push the button to launch though, it wasn't one button. 4 guys all had to be somewhere else, different locations, but you all had to be talking together. You all had you were having a console that has a bunch of little buttons and stuff on it. You all have to have your right one button that says, this is the missile we're gonna launch. And when we'd count 4, 3, 2, 1, all 4 guys had to push a button at the same time. It signaled to what we called a computer back then. Big old box with motors and all kinds of crazy stuff in it and switches. And it says, I got 3 out of 4 people agree I can launch. I'd rather have 4 out of 4, but only need 3 out of 4 of you agreeing to launch my missile. That's so no one guy could cancel a valid launch, but that's so no one guy could cause a valid launch. So you had that safety. And anytime you were near this missile, working with it, because it was nuclear, you had to have 2 people of equal knowledge at all times around it, fully certified. And if you were upstairs in that area and you thought you were going to be funny and you want to come running through the gate and see what's going on, they had 2 things to stop you. The guard with his rifle is not going to shoot you in the leg. He's going to shoot to kill you. Very bluntly. Don't mean to scare you on this. And there's this other guard walking around with this 125-pound German Shepherd. Walking around. He's looking for a meal. The meal he's looking for would be your throat. He gets released, and you're the one. He's going to latch onto you and keep on chewing until that guard comes over and actually chokes the dog off. Not trying to scare you, but this is where you're at, in sight, that was what it was. There was no playing around.
No.
You had to make sure things were secure and safe. From the ground.
I know eventually they're going to raise it back up, so I'm going to go back up and catch that.
How did we practice? How did we shoot these things? And how did we train? The process of training, you could be on alert and whatever else. So you're sitting here, you now have a missile like we moved it downstairs. Now we got it on here. Now if we were on alert, they were downstairs, but we're doing it quickly. The same 2 guys that rode up with it would push one over there. Before they even started doing that, this elevator's going back down. 2 more of the guys as part of the 7-person crew is waiting down there with another missile. He rolls along. He rides up. They're headed for that missile over there, that launcher, sending this sucker back down. These guys who did their job over there will help them arm that one or whatever. They're getting another one, they're loading that one up, and then finally we're leaving the one on here. We get 4 of them up here in a hurry, if we needed to. Normally though, if it was day, halfway weather, if it's like this, the guy'd stand there they wouldn't be out sunbathing. But they would have all 4 missiles up here. And what we aren't be able to show you today due to current hydraulics being rebuilt because it's gotten old, is they stand on their tail. They're standing there not quite straight up though. They usually lean forward about 3 degrees or so. In other words, they would be seeing it tilted. You would look like it's standing straight up. But we would launch 1 at a time only. Because up there on the hill, see the green building? Yeah. That was the power building for all the antennas and stuff that was up there. And there's a right building kind of there, it gets lost in the hill. You can see 6 cement kind of there, like 6 will stand. That's where the missile guidance radar was. So it's looking down here at these missiles, and when we launch it, it has to guide it all the way to the target. And when I came out here in 2001, started volunteering, if they haven't told you already, they had to finally give me a nickname. That's only happened recently. These guys are Army. I was Air Force. Oh, okay. Just like the guys that worked here. If you worked in the pit, or if you worked in the radar, these guys really didn't work with those guys up there by reason very often. Those guys up there thought they were in radar. They're better than anybody just pushing a missile around. So the guys that work down here, this is a magazine. This is where we kept the weapons, 6 of them. But they didn't like say I worked in a magazine. So Ron over there, he worked in the pit. These guys up here still feeling they're better than them. Bunch of pit rats. So the pit rats were the ones that had to move the missiles around. Get them up here on the launcher, all ready to go. Very quickly if they were the hot site, because they had to be able to go from alert to launch in nominally 9 minutes is the number I've heard thrown around. Some people say 15, kind of I guess depending on what site you're at, when, and during this lifespan. But the Army actually supported this crazy attitude that I was just mentioning. Pit rats, and the pit rats had a name for them up there too. I probably didn't say it. Bunch of some scope dopes. Radar kind of guys.
Scope dopes, I like that.
But the idea being, the guys that did their job here had to know how to do it. But they didn't even know that. All they had to know was that when you got them up and ready to go, 4 guys in 4 different locations, all had to have their consoles properly configured, have checked the codes and all that stuff, and push 4 buttons at the same time to launch that one missile. That was for major security, safety, and whatever. Because as the people that are downstairs with me, no, they were nuclear weapons. 5 out of 6 in this pit would have been nuclear. Right behind you, gathering rust in our nice work area, is another location like this. They had 6 more. So this site had 12 missiles, 10 of which would have been nuclear. But we're in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. We are working with an old system. Young kids, this isn't a bad word when you hear it. Analog. Nothing digital. Man, if you had something like that back then.
Yeah.
But they do today. Most of the missile systems we have around, the guys can be as far away as me from Vandenberg if need be. And if they really need to get on the game, they have their codes, they have their capabilities, and you can launch from it. Back then, we had to be sitting at a console. You had a number of buttons you had to configure to make sure you're properly configured for launching the right missile. We had to practice over and over during the day. They'd have those guys up there in the radar, they'd have to turn the radar, looking for our missiles down here, standing like that, and say, damn, I can already tell the difference between 1, 2, 3, or 4. Well, the guys down here would help them a little bit. They'll only turn one on at a time at least, so that they could point their antennas down, make sure it's pointing in the right way, and all that good stuff, and get ready to know how to launch it and practice launching over and over again. That's the way you train. When you really got ready to prove you knew what you're doing though, they'd do a snap on you. I'm not snapping my finger. I'm talking about short notice, annual practice. They pick up about half the guys at a site, right? Whether or not they shipped your missile or not, but they'd all get up, shipped down to Fort Bliss, Texas. Down there, they have more than one launch site. They have about 20, some of them, strung out far enough apart so they don't interfere with each other too much. And to go down there and have to put together a missile. Get it ready to launch. Then say, okay, I'm ready to launch it. Oh, we can't launch that one. We haven't certified it yet. Oh, the team before you left one behind that we certified. Then you move over there and the guys that actually launch and work together get to launch a missile and certify it. You get to go through the high concussions, the noise and all the other stuff that's not good for your health, and come home and finally be certified. I know how to launch. I'm good. Here I am. I don't have to do that bunch of training all the time, right? Maybe not. 1 month later, Joe gets the orders. He's leaving. Damn, we're getting a new person. Excuse my language. Darn, okay? Get a new person. Start all over again. Training. And then get to go to Fort Bliss again in a future time and get certified. So that was the life of the guys here. Yes, the guys here would work here, stay here, go on vacation or daily leave. But in this area, we're talking 60s, 50s, 60s, we weren't allowed to go to San Francisco. You can't go to Sausalito. You were GI, you got that clean haircut, those shiny shoes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like you around here very much.
But this is a deterrent weapon system. This is here, it's out in the open, so that any would-be conquerors, like the Soviet Union, for example, it would give them a warning of what they would have to deal with if they tried to attack us. And maybe they would think twice. So it was a deterrent system. The threat at that time was hundreds of Soviet bombers, Bear bombers, each containing 4 bombs apiece, coming over to San Francisco and dropping a bomb on Coit Tower. Well, that would be a bad day. So, but if that were to ever happen, worst case scenario, if any got past the Air Force, there'd be a big dogfight out in the ocean or hundreds of miles out. Any bombers that got past that dogfight, we would deal with when they got within a 100-mile range. So that was our job. We were kind of a watch and wait defense, like Homeland Security. But that was our missile defense, our first generation missile defense. Now our NATO, we closed this site down in 1974, but our NATO allies had these same Hercules missiles. When I say NATO allies, Okinawa, Taiwan, Italy, Greece, Turkey, France, Denmark, Norway, Germany had these missiles up until about a decade ago. Italy had them until 2008, and Taiwan had them until 2002. So this Hercules missile you see had a long life, about a 50-year life. So, and it was upgraded, all the electronics. Everything you saw down in the vans was old vacuum tube, analog technology. Well, it all got upgraded. And in the 80s and 90s, actually the upgrade started when I was in the service. So they upgraded the computer, was the first thing they did, and put in a solid state computer. But yeah, this was all upgraded. The electronics were made by Western Electric, which is Ma Bell, Lucent Industries. So it's all popular names. The missile was made by McDonnell Douglas McDonnell Aircraft. So all popular names we know. But that was our missile defense. Now we still have missile defense today. And in Alaska we have a dozen called TAD sites, and the TAD is the name of a missile called Terminal High Altitude Defense. But there's 12 of those missile sites up in Fort Greely, Alaska, and there's one here in California at Vandenberg Air Force Base near Santa Maria. So the Army's still doing the same job. It's just not as big, but they're still doing it. And not only the Army, but the Navy, the Air Force, watching our country all the time. There's always 2 F-16s flying up and down the California coast from Oregon to Mexico. And they're out of Fresno, the 144th Air Wing. So if any intruders come in, which happens, comes in our airspace, they're always up in the air, and they fly out and escort them out.
Can you imagine this being a live, active base, and you'd be shot to, shoot to kill, Got German shepherds patrolling the perimeter here. It's pretty crazy that we're walking on this base now, and it's now so open. But there was a time when this definitely would not be an area where a civilian would want to be. And I just wanted to show you, I'm just noticing, you see that little pink building over there? That's where they train the killer German shepherds. They have a guy here, he has no expression on his face, but he's the guy you got to deal with if you're coming in this gate. Hercules forward body section. And, your cell phone could run about 5,000 of these probably. Bert the Turtle says duck and cover. Star of the U.S. official civil defense film Duck and Cover. Here's a model of the Soviet Bear bomber. That's what the Nike missiles were hoping to shoot down if they ever came our way. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that tour of the SF-88 Nike missile site as much as I did. That was very informative, and having the veterans here telling you their stories was also awesome. So thanks for coming along with me today here in the Marin Headlands. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.